Hello and good afternoon, real estate professionals. Hope you're all doing well today. I am Kurt Klaus. I want to thank you for joining our May monthly webinar today and for being proactive to learn and improve and achieve more success together with us. This monthly webinar series that we do, we cover a variety of topics, feature different guest speakers, all to help you, the real estate agent, improve your business. In today's webinar, we will cover the benefits and the reasons why you should have a Google My Business listing. We'll give you 9 easy steps to set up your own free business profile on Google. And we'll follow that up with ways you can optimize your listing once you have created it to get the best results. We have lots to get through in today's webinar, in today's hour. So as people are logging on, I want to quickly cover a few items here. Our webinars live on the Agent Advantage website, which is proprietary to the Guarantee Rate companies. Agent Advantage is no cost. It is a site that offers marketing tools and technology, content, coaching, all to make your life easier, to help you look good, to help your clients. It is for all agents across the country that trust us to close loans quickly and help grow their business. If you do not already have an Agent Advantage account, you can go to agents.rate.com. If you are working with Guaranteed Rate Affinity, we do have a version for Affinity, agents.grarate.com, and for Proper Rate, agents.properrate.com. So 3 versions. All of these monthly webinars we do are archived on the Agent Advantage site coaching page. Want to also announce we have a new Facebook page. We've just started an Agent Advantage Insider Facebook group. This is a private group exclusive to our Agent Advantage referral partners. We just started this a week or 2 ago. We already have 500 members. We want 5,000 members. So if you want to be part of this forum, go to Facebook, just search Agent Advantage Insider. I believe Danielle will put a link in the chat where you can just go directly to the site and click join. Sole purpose of Agent Advantage Insider Facebook is to help you stay current on news, share content, learn insights we have on loan products, and just stay up to date on changes, basically to promote agent excellence. I like that. So we'll probably we'll be adding a PDF guide of this webinar with steps from the Google My Business to that Facebook page. The Agent Advantage website and the Agent Advantage Insider Facebook page are all about helping you. So we'll actually even put a poll on that Facebook page so you can tell us what you want on a future webinar. So on to today's webinar. Before we start, please give us your questions. We do these webinars live, so you can submit your questions. We'll answer them at the end. So enter your question in the chat feature in the GoToWebinar. Danielle will handle the inbox and we'll bring her back in at the end to read your questions. So again, this is for you. Take notes. Please submit your questions. Let's dive in right now to help all of you with a fast and free way to advertise on Google and improve your digital footprint with Google My Business. I know Google is ever evolving, and up to now, typically only brokerages have set up Google My Business, but that's shifting to agents at the individual level as Google realizes the customer experience is mostly based on the transaction with you and experience with each agent versus the company they work for. So I would like to introduce and bring in our guest speaker to unravel the mysteries of SEO and explain why and exactly how to set up your Google My Business. Nick Ermo. Nick has over a dozen years experience in the marketing field, helping small businesses and individuals in various industries to improve their social media and search engine marketing, their digital marketing. And Nick is currently our VP of Channel Marketing here at Guaranteed Rate. I want to thank you for presenting Google My Business. Hello, Nick. How are you doing today?
Doing good, Kurt. Thanks for having me on again. I'm really excited about presenting about Google My Business. I think it's a huge value add for any real estate professional out there that wants to really increase their opportunities to get more leads.
Perfect. I think it's a no-brainer, no cost, and it can help your business. So again, take notes, ask your questions in the chat, and I will let you take it from here, Nick.
Awesome. Thank you, Kurt. So just getting started, best way for me to really explain what Google My Business is and really dive into why it's such a valuable tool in today's way that people discover people, places, and things around them is kind of explaining why Google does this in the first place. And I think it all boils down to trust. If Google wants to maintain their great platform and make sure that customers can rely on their data and rely on their search results based on their queries, is to verify that information with the vendors, the businesses, the places around them. So Google Alphabet, the family of companies and services that Google is, released search, maps, photos, videos with YouTube, all separately. And what they really try to do on the local level is that through Google My Business, it really attaches itself to all of those different platforms. So by having a listing through Google My Business, it'll allow you to be found via not just the search results when people type in realtor near me, or when they type in homes for sale near me, and have your keywords obviously promote yourself through the engine, but also photos of houses, photos of yourself, photo of your business, photo of events that you go to, maps, where you're located, what areas you serve, what towns you service, neighborhoods that you might be familiar with, and of course, your post data, whether it's social signals from other platforms, or even if you're keeping relevant with the Google My Business platform and updating that regularly. All of those metrics help Google send good qualified information that's verified to their clients, making sure that the people who are using Google to search are finding exactly what they want. So local search in general is just how it applies to local things, places, people. And if you want to really explore around you online, and I mean, how many of you probably use Google just to research whether a restaurant is good or not through Google reviews, or places near you, or Starbucks near me? Those searches are basically what local search is. And of course, it's very difficult to kind of really understand how Google lays that out for their end users, especially because it happens so organically. So the experience is so simple for all of us because we use Google on a day-to-day basis. You don't necessarily take the time to really think about how search is laid out, especially for the real estate industry. So just kind of explaining how the search results are laid out can also help explain how important it is to be included in them. So as you all know, you type in a search query in the beginning of your search, and that's reiterated when you click enter and when you go find the results. The second thing outside of the search query in order of top to bottom is Google services and ads for real estate agents. If it's a real estate agent search, it will promote those people who are in that paid platform. So it's obviously a pay to play kind of experience on the top there, but you can be included. Realtors have been selected out of a few other industry types. I think lawyers would be another one, financial advisors would be another one, that they found that the industry itself was so filled with agents and or professionals, individuals, that they could have, they could be basically listed at the very top and help people find local professionals for those industries. The second thing down from the services area is AdWords. And I think most of us are familiar with AdWords. That's where you pay for certain keywords in a bidding environment competitively with other companies to be listed in that area. And we won't go into that today, but it's important to know where that area is so that way you can see how important it is compared to the organic results, right? And then you have the local 3-pack below that. And that's really what Google My Business builds out for us. So when you have a listing with Google My Business, it is possible for you to be included in what we call the local 3-pack. And that's a combination of not just your business listing with the, your phone number, your website, and your listing, but it's also imperative that you're included in the maps section. So that's a very important part about local search. A matter of fact, even having your own website, your own Facebook, your own Zillow profile, all of that isn't going to get you included into there. This is something that you have to actually have a listing and a profile for. And just really quick disclaimer, I probably say this later on, but please check before you start your own Google My Business listing. Please check with your broker in charge or your branch manager just to make sure that you're following the policies of your local branch. We don't want you to, make duplicative kind of listings and stuff and go against what your team already has in place for you. So just double check before you proceed making your own individual account that it is in compliance with what your branch has decided is best for your entire staffing. And then, of course, on the right side of the screen, you're going to see the organic results and how, those are almost underneath that first fold, if you will. After you've scrolled down in the search results, then you start finding organic results. And for the most part, organic results are usually not as local. They're usually national and or larger company websites. And takes a lot more effort to be considered optimized for those things. It requires a lot of backlinking, a lot of keyword optimization, a lot of input into that website. So a lot of people who invested in a, like let's say an IDX website for a real estate agent, they're going to see less and less results coming from that as these larger companies kind of take up that organic listing. That's why it's so important and critical that a local thing like Google My Business and the local 3-pack exists, because it's very difficult to rank without being a national recognized brand. And then underneath that is something called rich card snippets, and that's relatively a new feature. It's a couple years old, but what it does is for those people who have very specific answers in their copy, in their website, when they answer a question really well, Google will cite that website. You don't even have to go into the website. Google will cite that website in those rich card snippets to answer the questions for that person. And of course, if you are one of the websites that are chosen, obviously being included in the rich card snippets is a huge SEO gain and win for you. And again, you'll see more organic results as the page follows. And then on the next slide, you'll see organic results continue for a little bit longer in the page, and then it goes into more places for Google AdWords. And then what's sometimes overlooked is the related search queries that Google puts at the very, very bottom of the page. And you'll probably notice that when Google tries to guess what you're writing and what you're searching for, that's a really good way of looking at content, is that when a consumer writes those things in and it sees like, oh, well, homes in, and then it will, immediately start adding locations and or, kind of other keywords that you might want to consider writing in your copy, or at least staying focused on when you do your ad copies and whatnot like that. Because if you're using Google or Google Trends to compare your search results, if you're really trying to optimize your keywords, great way where Google suggests what keywords you want to rank for anyway based on popularity. So we won't go into Google Trends and stuff like that on today's call, but of course, if you have questions, please bring them up. I'm happy to answer them while we're on this call. And of course, that's one of the things that we created for you on the Facebook group that's private. If you have questions that go outside of what we can cover today on today's call, please go ahead and post your questions on there. We're happy to take this offline. Anyway, now that we've covered sort of how local search works, let's talk specifically about what and why Google My Business exists. And really, when we used to, refer businesses to people, or when we looked up businesses in the local area, we just go to the yellow pages, that big yellow book that got delivered every year to your front doorsteps. That just doesn't exist anymore. Why would you? You have a phone, or you have a computer, or you have some kind of technology that you're familiar with. And whether you're browsing on mobile, whether you're browsing on desktop, the whole near me keyword happens to kind of help you more than anything else these days. So if you're looking for, as I kind of mentioned before, a restaurant, real estate, could be a salon, whatever it is, as long as it knows where you are based on your geolocation on your mobile device or even on your desktop IP, it can help you find things that are local. So it's really replaced, Google My Business really replaced the yellow pages. And unlike before, where you could just pay yellow pages for a listing, this is a little bit more authentic. I mean, it gives you a lot more information, and it's very difficult to game. It's very difficult for you to go unchecked. And so Google wants, obviously, to promote the best information to its clients, its users. Otherwise, people will refuse to use the search engine if they don't ever get the right results. And of course, I'm sure everyone on this call had a point where, they went to a location, especially during COVID, and it was closed and it didn't reflect that way on Google, and you got upset. So Google really wants to be able to trust the information, and that's why they want you to get verified. That's why they want you to put in updated business hours. That's why they want to be able to trust that information, so that way they can confidently send their users to the right places, especially in today's world, where it is pretty much the only place to get that information. And of course, Bing has a similar, Yahoo has a similar, all search engines have some similar, but Google being the predominant player in search, they want their information being the most trustworthy. And of course, as you can all see, it is a free service that Google provides. You don't have to pay. You can pay to get more listing or more, let's just put it, top of the ranking placement. So you can pay to get your placement further up in ranking. And you can also pay for the Google services area on the very, very top, like we discussed before. So there are ways to take it to the next level. But for the most part, we're just talking about your free listing today and how important it is for you as a real estate agent. So let's get started setting it up. So step one, it's really, really cool, guys. All you have to do is go to google.com/business, and that's going to start your journey getting your profile started. And as soon as you click that Start Now button, you're basically saying to Google, let me start my yellow pages listing. Basically, it's just that simple. And if you want to follow along while we're doing this right now, I'm going to try to keep things moving quickly so we can get through this and answer your questions. But if you want, go to google.com/business right now, and you can follow along in the steps, and we can take it together, the journey together. Step two, it's just as simple as adding the name of your business. Now, I did say check with your branch manager, check with the broker in charge, make sure that you're not You're not doing anything that's against company policy. But most real estate agents use their name in the actual name of their business. So whatever your name is going to be part of your business name. And then I would probably include the agency and or the brokerages that you work for in that title, just to make sure that you're conveying the right message. So again, very simple, add your name and go ahead and click next. And that brings us to step 3. And the address part, it makes, obviously we all know our address, right? And you're probably thinking to yourself, well, am I supposed to use the brokerage address? Are you supposed to use your personal address, your home address? What address am I using, right? Like, I don't want to use the wrong one. Well, as you are a real estate agent and you are not the actual brick and mortar brokerage, I recommend using your home address. One is that it will provide zero conflict with your brokerage, right? We don't want to have duplicative data. We don't want to confuse Google. We don't want to add suite numbers that are not really correct. And you don't want to overtake or be competing with all the other real estate agents in that location. So what I would recommend is use your home address. However, when you use your home address, it does not need, and nor should it be, a public thing. So there is, in just another step or two, a way to make sure, as a matter of fact, it is step 4, make sure that you click the yes, I also serve them outside my location. So in other words, to make it very simple to understand, if you serve somebody outside of the location, you become a service area. In other words, you drive to open houses, you drive to showing a house, you drive to the client, and let's just say that you're doing you're closing on a loan or whatever, and you want to show up. You're the one traveling to them. They're not traveling to you to sit down with you. And if they are, you can refer them to that brokerage address later. This is all about how people find you and how you're advertising yourself to that local area. So I recommend that if you're going to do this as an individual, as an agent, select that you are part of an area and not a brick and mortar store front. If that makes sense, we can move on to step number 5. But let me just stop right here just for a second. Any questions about service areas and or how to choose the area that you serve? If not, we'll just keep on going. But I just want to make sure that sometimes people get confused about this particular topic. Danielle, Kurt, do we have any questions so far relate to service areas?
No questions so far.
Okay, I'll just keep moving on then. So step 5, add the areas that you serve. And again, like, some people get really, confused here. Don't go 50 miles outside of where you live and work, because you're probably not either, one, typically going to be found in that area anyway. Your business just doesn't promote in that area. But choose the areas and the neighborhoods that you find you get the most amount of traction with. If you're just starting out in the real estate agent world and you want to try going out a little bit further to see if you can, get a couple clients out in the, areas that are a little bit further out, go for it. But I always find that the closer in that you stay and the more that you're an expert in your own neighborhood, the better off you are. And, I know a lot of agents that have worried, hey, you know what, am I going to have a profitable business if I just stay right here in my own area? And you know what, honestly, the people who do their own area really well dominate their market, and they do much better than when they're diluting their efforts to places that they can't go as regularly. So anyway, moving on to step 6, category. And again, you're allowed more than one category, but it needs to be the category that best fits you. If you are an agent, I would say real estate agent. If you're an agency or a brokerage, say real estate agency. Try not to put into, that area anything outside of what your trying to get search results for. The less is more in this case. So if you have a side hustle, or if you have another business, or if you have something else going on, like let's say you're a photographer, or let's say that you're working a full-time job and you're a real estate agent on the side, focus on what this business does for this particular listing. You could always have a different listing for a different business, but try to stay true to what we're trying to get leads and capture interest for. So step 7. And here is something that we kind of touch on later, but I'll introduce you to the idea now. This is where NAP plus W comes into real effect. And what NAP plus W is it's your business name, your address, the business's phone number, or the one that you want to be contacted on. Make sure that it's universally what you advertise with, plus W, which is website. So NAP plus W, name, address, phone number, website. Make sure that when you enter those data points in, that they are accurate across the board, and you do not have separate phone numbers or separate addresses listed elsewhere. Why is this important? Well, Google does something with their algorithm, is that they crawl all the websites, all those profiles, Facebook, Zillow, your website, your brokerage account, and when they see that data isn't consistent, and when they see that data isn't necessarily accurate, they penalize you by not trusting you as much. And what that means is that they're not going to make your listing the #1 listing when they don't feel like you're accurate in your data or representing yourself truthfully. So remember, trust, data integrity, consistency. That's very important to the Google search engine, and for that matter, any search engine. So when you put it in, even if you have a cell phone number that you're like, hey, I want that to be the way people contact me. If that's not true on your profile page on your business, if that's not true on your even business card, even though that's not easily tracked by Google, just keep in mind, consistent is best across all advertising platforms, especially those ones that are digital. You might want to also consider, if you're trying to promote yourself through a special phone number, maybe have your business phone number, forward it to your cell phone if you want to be on your cell phone, or get a Google Voice number and change everything to that, and then have that forward to your phone number, your physical phone number. And that's just one way to keep things looking good for Google, and making sure that you're optimizing your profile and still not interrupting the way that you want to do business for yourself. So in step 8, this is the hard part, right? It's choosing a way to get verified. And this is something we didn't bring up in the slide itself, but if you've been around for a while, and if it recognizes that you've been a realtor for a while and you just never had a listing set up yet, it might give you another option. Actually, it might give you a call me option. But for most of you who are just setting up one of these yourself, is going to offer you the postcard option, which is just as simple as you get a postcard in the mail, and it's from Google, and it gives you a 6-digit code. When you return to your business Google My Business profile page, and you enter in that 6-digit code, that will make it live. That'll verify, and it will publish your page. Make sure, again, like if you're seeing that you already have an address, something like that, and we kind of cover this in step 9, so we'll just skip ahead to step 9. Make sure that if you have a duplicate page, either get rid of it or convert it over, or modify it. And what I mean by that is that if you have something set up from a previous business or something like that, and let's just say it is expired, or it's closed, or it's temporarily closed, don't try to set up multiple Google My Business listings on top of each other. One is Google's going to think that you're trying to game their system, and they're not going to like that at all. And 2 is that if you want to retain reviews from a previous brokerage, let's just say, and you had a previous Google My Business listing, those reviews are for you, that you're bringing with you. So just modify the one you already currently have, and that means logging in, changing it. It might require you to verify again though. So if you change a few different data points all at the same time, Google might think, hey, you know what? How can the business name change, the phone number change, and the person's name change all at the same time? We're going to re-verify. You're going to have to go through the postcard process again, but at least that way you will retain your reputation and your reviews and previous analytical data from your previous account. So that being said, that's kind of a rare subject matter, but if you do run into that, that would be my advice, is just think about before you delete and completely scrap old accounts, think about if there's a way to revitalize them or change the brokerage name so that way you don't lose that effort. And then finally, you know, we kind of covered this with the NAP plus W conversation from step 7 or so. Just remember, Google wants to see consistency. If you want to change things across the board, start changing them before you even finish your Google My Business listing to what you want. And that might be a lot of effort. You're going through profiles, Yext, you know, Angie's List, you know, who knows where you have all this stuff. But a quick search on Google for your own name and your own business listing can help save you a lot of time, and you can find all those old profiles that you might have to change if your contact data in NAP plus W might have changed, especially if you switched from one brokerage to another. And so let's just kind of explain how these things get ranked. It's kind of cool because, as you already know, there's a lot of factors that go into search engine optimization, and what we're talking about kind of goes beyond that, because it's local search and you're optimizing your Google My Business, and what your Google My Business points to, especially on your website and other things, is all crawled. And when everything works together, the NAP plus W, the content on your website, the local listing that you have on Google My Business, and other platforms like Social Signals and posting data and geotags, when all of those things work together, you get a phenomenal ranking in the local 3-pack, right? The Google My Business area that we're all trying to compete in. That's what's so critical, is that you have all these things working together, right? So it's important to know what factors there are. And it's important to also know that Google likes trusting that data. So when they get reports that that data wasn't true, like your business hours, for example, they called you at 5 o'clock when you said you were open, and you never, you know, your voicemail says that you weren't in, right? You probably want to keep those things updated so that way customers and users don't find themselves, you know, in the dark when it comes to contacting you or doing business with you. You want to be as honest as possible, even if that means changing it for a holiday or changing it for a vacation. Changing it when things change obviously helps your users find the right data. So one of the important parts outside of the business name, the NAP plus W, is reviews. And I can't stress this enough, guys. Quantify how many times you've looked yourself for reviews of other companies and other people online, and you'll understand immediately why it's such a huge, important, not just ranking factor, because there's obviously a lot of ranking factors, but as a customer intent factor. The customer sees a lot of positive reviews, a lot of engagement, a lot of activity on your account, they're going to want to do business with that person. So just like any other experience that you've had yourself, when you're looking at reviews, when you're looking at who's best to help you solve a problem, you know, obviously that's a huge part of it. So yeah, we're going to go into optimizing. And while we're talking about optimizing, make sure to obviously make sure that the profile is 100% complete. You don't have to do it from the day one, right? You start the listing, you get verified, and then you can start adding pictures. You can start adding your logo, your cover photo, hours of operation. It is really important to get the description down right, and don't reiterate the obvious. Don't reiterate your name and your business and the fact that you're a real estate agent. Reiterate where you work. That's all in that data. That's all when you filled out your profile, it already got all that information. So Google doesn't need to see all that in your description reiterated. Sell it, sell yourself, sell what niche you fill in your local marketplace, sell what's important about home ownership to you, like make it beyond just reiterating the data points, right? And then, also remember that when you add photos to a search engine, I mean, yeah, there's AI and yeah, there's computing that tries to discover and kind of guess what your photo means. But the best way is to tell Google what your photo means, and that's having a meta description in the photo. That's having geotags from when you take a picture with your phone, it immediately knows where you were when you took that photo. That's important stuff that on the back end of that photo, Google can crawl that data and better understand what that Google photo means. So when you're uploading to Google, especially to Google, keep in mind that what it's named, the geotags, the meta tags on the photo itself are great descriptors for Google to understand what it means and how to make it benefit you from a local search perspective. And don't forget to add videos, guys. I mean, the #1 searched website in the world is Google, followed by YouTube. Google owns YouTube. Remember, use videos as part of your SEO strategy. It's hugely important, even more important than some social signals for how Google places you in the rankings. So when you're really fully optimized and you're working really well, the content is king, and videos are obviously worth more than 1,000 photos, and it's just worth your time to do it. So following that, in your keywords, it's really, really important to think about what kind of keywords you want to put in your business description. And I'll give you a helpful clue that, and it won't work on the local level. There's not enough search volume usually, unless you're like in a big city like Chicago or New York. But think about how people search for things and then go on Google Trends, which is a great way for you to test out some keywords and test out some ways that people might phrase a search query and see what its popularity is compared to each other. And some people research things like in our industry, what's more popular, mortgage originator, loan officer, VP of lending, like what are people searching for when it comes to like a title, or when it comes to searching for this particular professional, financial advisor or CPA or accountant, like what search term ranks best, or what's being used more often, and where are people using certain search terms. And of course you can get carried away and start researching this a lot, especially if you're analytical like me and you want to have all that data behind every decision you make. Don't get carried away. Just think about like how people search in your area for certain things like houses, condos. If it's a VA area, I mean, you want to mention that you cater to veterans. Just think outside the box. It's really important to use the right keywords so that way Google can pair your listing with how people are searching for your business and what you do. And then, we kind of discussed about photos a little bit, so like on #3 in terms of optimizing, it's important to also remember that you don't want to just add every photo, of everything. It's, stock photos aren't going to really work that well, but show your personality. Make sure that you, kind of take a step back and say, hey, is this something that's going to be enticing, or is I'm just trying to fill this, cover photo with something. Like, have it be personable, have a story to tell about it, and again, don't overthink it either, but follow the recommended sizing, and you can see that on the right side right there. Keep your logo a square. It will resize it for you, but again, like minimum 250 by 250, and that's pixel sizes, right? And then cover photo, that's recommending in terms of like how it's going to fit. As long as you keep that ratio in mind, you can't really go wrong, as long as you stay above that 480 by 270. And that's really small, guys. That's not going to look good on anything but a small mobile phone. If you really want to, make Google and your clients impressed, make sure that you have a high res photo that works, it looks good. You don't want to have your first impression have something that looks blurry and doesn't look as good. Anyway, moving on. Just keeping in mind, like we said before, keep things updated as necessary. If things change, make sure Google knows about it so that way your clients will know about it. The worst thing Google penalizes quite a bit for is having infactual data. And then, manage and respond to your customer reviews. I mean, that's an important part of this. It's part of the most important part of reputation management. If you guys don't mind, go to the next slide just really quick. There you go. And one of the things that I found, it's really cool. It's not a Google service. It's like a third party kind of thing. But if you already have a listing set up and you followed all this stuff, you optimized, you're ready to go, and you just like, I don't know why nobody reviews me. Well, people don't normally think to themselves why it's important for them to go out of their way and review you. So sometimes a delicate reminder, hey, as a realtor, as a real estate agent, it's really important to me and my business. I work off of referrals, and when I get a good testimonial online, it really helps prove to other people that I'd be a good fit for help them in their home ownership journey. And so in order to do that, I've always found that it's really nice to write in either my email signature or in my text message to be able to point directly to that review pop-up when people click on your listing and say review this business. You can skip ahead and fast forward them directly to that pop-up by using this WhiteSpark link generator. And all you have to do once your listing is approved and verified is just write in what your business name is, which is probably going to start with your name, and it will find the listing for you, and it will generate a review link that you can copy and paste into either text or emails or signatures, or even in some profiles like on Facebook and everything else, when you want to tell somebody how important it is, follow it up with a link and or a button. If you have a CRM, add it to your CRM, make sure that it's promoting that feature, and you'll be able to collect some reviews, and that will help your ranking ultimately. That's a big part of optimizing. And moving on, I kind of go into why reviews are so important, but I think that we kind of know that now. We know that just if nothing else was true in terms of ranking, in terms of your placement online, what's mostly important is that how people see reviews and how they know that that's authentic, how they know that it's not something that's typically faked, and they believe that. And so a lot of the times, even if there's a huge, good, compelling reason to do something on a digital end for optimization purposes, there's a real world, truth to this. If you are confident with, somebody else's reputation, you're more likely to use them. And then, I think that in the next slide, we talk about how regularly posting to your page has a lot of benefits. A lot of people, especially now with all the noise in the marketplace, they don't know what to post. And we covered this back in January when we were talking about, kind of marketing to your own neighborhood and being the local expert. Don't forget, your target audience is the one that's right next door to you. It's the person who is involved in your community or thinking about moving there, or, somebody who's really, really engaged with schools or have kids, or they're retiring. Talk to those people. I mean, it's one of those things where, the content that you provide them, if it's engaging, if it's entertaining, and if it's worthwhile, if it has some relevancy to what they're doing locally, it's shareable and it's interesting, and it keeps it visible that you're a participant and that you're really, moving in a good direction in terms of getting more neighbors, right? I mean, that's your intent, is to help build your community with great people that are like-minded and want to be part of a growing community that supports each other and are fun to be around. So when you're thinking about things to do, we also have, something called greatlife.rate.com. If you haven't been there already, it's a great blog. It's a great resource to find some kind of more generic content for your consumers, for your clients, and it will look just like you sent it yourself. It's really not really branded GR, so it's something that you're free to use. And of course, if you're not already a participant on our Facebook group, you'll find tons of content there, not just aimed at you, but also there for you to share and for you to piggyback off of in terms of topics and in terms of cool articles that we've written and or images to share and whatnot. So tons of content that's out there that we're providing or you can find very easily. And then, finally, on our last kind of like slide before we end it for questions and answers, is that thing I kind of mentioned in the very beginning, that Google screened services ads. It's only available for just attorneys, real estate agents, and financial planners. It isn't something that we're going to really go into at great length today, but I wanted you to be aware that that is something that Google's started about, I would say about 8 to 9 months ago. They started this program, and it's well worth looking into. It's not very costly. And if you want to take that, promoting yourself a little bit further and be at the very, very top of both desktop and mobile traffic, it's a great place to start. That being said, I'm kind of going to wrap up, and I'm going to let people start either with their questions or if they have any comments or feedback. We just do that now.
Yeah, Nick, we do have one question that came through here regarding the setup, the initial setup about the location. If multiple addresses are able to be used, or if it's just the one.
It's a great question. In terms of like the address itself, it has to be narrowed down to one. And it will be wherever you select that address that you're going to maintain your business out of. Even if you check you're just a service area, in order for them to verify, they will send that postcard directly to that address. So make sure that it's somewhere where you can actually physically pick up that mail. If it is the brokerage address, if let's say you're an independent agent and you have an agency and you have a business address that you want to put in there, just make sure that it's not a PO box. PO boxes do not work. It has to be a physical address. And even if you found like a UPS store address that you thought, hey, you know what, maybe I can say that that's my address, that's not allowable either. Google has mapped out all those different types of business addresses that could be considered quote unquote gaming the system, and they block those. You might get away with actually getting it verified, but unfortunately it won't have any like true ranking. So just keep that in mind.
Great stuff, Nick. I'll love the breakdown of the search results view. I'll never look at that the same again, use that every day. Couple from me, is it possible someone has to have a negative or fake review removed from your page? How does that work?
So a negative review, that kind of implies that it's true. And it's
unfortunately, yeah.
Unfortunately it's true. And you know what, we all get negative reviews. And actually what actually I think is really cool statistically is that the best ranking local 3-packs or Google My Business profiles have an average star rating out of 5 of 4.3, which means that they're not perfect 5.0. As a matter of fact, when Google sees nothing but positive, it doesn't necessarily trust it. And I'm not saying that it's not possible. We have plenty of locations ourselves that have 5.0s out of 5.0s. We just happen to be really, really good and careful about that ranking. Now, what I will say also is that if you're a consumer and you only see one review and it's negative, will that impact you? And is that even a true representation of what you do? So Google does allow you to basically say that a review was made fraudulently, or that they weren't participating in the rules, or that it's a competitor. So if you want to try to remove it, you absolutely can. It is a process. And generally speaking, it doesn't disappear immediately. It might take 1, 2, even 3 or 4 weeks to get removed, and only if they can justify its removal with one of the reasons that it lists. So through the arbitration of doing these things, if it is really something that's, let's just say, inappropriate on their behalf, like something that's really, really harmful to your business, there is a way to expedite that review process in the removal, and you just have to contact Google separately to have them do their own independent research on it. But I will say this: out of all the different platforms that I've used as a marketing program, Google is I would say, the most fair when it comes to the remediation of fraudulent and I would say unacceptable behavior kind of reviews. So fear not, go ahead and solicit those people that you've done business with to review you. If they do say something negative, or if they have some truth to what they're saying, respond with kindness. Don't create a flame war. But ultimately, it is expectable to have a few negative encounters. That is the world we live in. So don't worry about that. And it's not going to harm you as long as it's, met with kindness and met with obviously considerable type of remediation. In other words, if they accused you of not being on time or something like that, you might want to just say, so sorry that you had a bad experience. Normally that's not the case. Here's why, and leave it at that.
Great. Reviews are so important too. I like your point mention on actually, requesting or asking for reviews after the transaction's done. Here's another question. I think you touched on this, but someone was asking, are there any lists available for top SEO keywords? I know you said not to overthink it, but other things specific to real estate agents.
That's kind of an ever-changing kind of thing. There is not a universal thing like, hey, if you add this one magic word, it's going to be, it's going to be the answer. I will say this though, in the world of SEO, and this applies to local search as well, is that there's something called competitiveness, right? And if something's overly popular, that means mostly everybody's competing on it. What's so cool as a ranking decision for local search is that it's not as dependent on highly competitive keywords. In other words, I think that Zillow has become a household name brand. Adding Zillow to be found when Zillow is being, offered as a search result, it's going to be next to impossible. There's enough mentions and a noise about that pretty much you as an independent agent won't have the ability to compete with that word. So when you're looking at competitive words and strategies, less competitive words might actually get you more local traffic. For example, I was in Illinois before I moved out to the East Coast, and there was a lot of like parks and a lot of just areas that I grew up visiting, in a lot of days like Northbrook days or whatever it is, parades that might be happening in your neighborhood, bands that might be playing locally, or an arboretum, or whatever it is. If you mention those things in your description, if you mention those things in your posts, you're much more likely to get a ranking value that's higher because of the fact that they're low competitive, they're not being mentioned by many people, but they're extremely important and extremely relevant to your local area. If that makes sense, just keep in mind that what might be a national word that gets people excited about this industry might not really be that applicable in your local area.
Any other questions, Dalia, on your side?
Yes, question about if agents are posting videos to YouTube, should they be posting the same videos to Google My Business page? And is that process fairly simple? Can you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of people repurpose their video content. I would not suggest posting the same exact video to multiple platforms. And there's a reason why. And I think that the simple way to explain it is that all search engines, all platforms frown on duplicative content. If it can be found somewhere, why does it exist multiple different places? That's why it's also very important that, let's just say that you have a biography on your brokerage's website, right? It has a little bio for you. It tells you a little bit about your history, and you think, hey, I'm going to save some time today. I'm going to copy and paste the same bio from here to my Google My Business profile description. Right away, you're hurting yourself, and it's going to ding you for that duplicate content. So my advice when it comes to video, when it comes to copy, when it comes to content, photos, is change it, not drastically, but maybe format it a little bit differently. We have a lot of successful LOs that take YouTube videos and turn them into TikTok videos by just changing the formatting in a video editor. We have a lot of people who add intros and outros to make that content unique, and it gives the I guess the impression that you're not being duplicative. The other thing is that because Google and YouTube are really the same engine, so to speak, a lot of people uploading YouTube don't realize the implications it has on search. And I would say that it's incredibly useful that you optimize your YouTube channel to both your industry and take every opportunity you can to write a great title that people would actually find if they search for a certain topic, and write a very good, lengthy, relevant description when you upload the video. And that happens the first time you upload the video, not in subsequent edits. I believe that there is a ranking algorithm that if you have it all set up when you hit publish the first time, it does better for you than if you go back and you change things around. Because again, Google thinks, hey, I'm changing it only so I can optimize it, not to actually add value to the particular viewer. So think about it in that sense, that you really want to optimize every opportunity you get to make sure that people who are searching for certain things that are relevant to your content can find it.
Great. Other questions?
Yep, just one more here regarding reviews or testimonials. If you have those being added to other platforms, such as Zillow, is there a way to connect that, or do they need to be added manually?
Okay, that's a great question. And, all right, so Zillow, whether it's Zillow, Facebook, or Trulia, or Angie's List, or whatever else, reviews that are not added directly to Google My Business cannot be linked, I guess you would call it. However, Google has implemented that when they crawl certain, let's just call it approved and verified platforms, they will include that in your Google My Business listing on your behalf. You don't have to actually have your client duplicate, their effort. You don't have to have a separate review. It will show up. It won't show up in the star review, but it will show up in your breakout section on the right-hand side when somebody searches for you, what's called inorganically. In other words, they knew your name and they knew your business, so they will see that. Unfortunately, it has almost next to nothing in terms of ranking factor. So if you're using reviews to catapult yourself in terms of ranking, unfortunately, any other platform is not going to do the same benefit that a direct Google My Business platform review would have. However, one more thing. Google's also penalizing any testimonial that you can manipulate yourself. In other words, if you have your own website and you have the ability to type in your own review and hit submit, Google doesn't like that. Also, Google prefers to see that the accounts that are writing the reviews on their platform have some reviews that were already written. And I'm not saying that, you can't have people who don't have a Gmail account or something like that start one to review you. That's fine. But Google doesn't like to see that all of your reviews are being solicited from first-time Google accounts. Reason why, for obvious reasons, especially from a local platform, it could be you just generating reviews with fake accounts. So they don't want to see that. They want to see that the accounts have activity. And that's why they really recommend that you don't strongly promote reviews. In other words, don't give gifts, don't give gift cards, promotions, et cetera, like that. They don't want you to, build reviews inauthentically. They really do want to encourage a natural, organic flow of reviews to your Google My Business account. That being said, guys, don't worry about that. Generally speaking, it's only the people who really, really are trying to game the system that find themselves being penalized or punished for those kinds of activities. For the most case, even if you had 90% of the people that you did business with, it's you solicited them and said in an email, hey, it's important to my business to review me, and they're not as active as most people are on Google, it's not going to hurt you. What's really most important is that you just don't try to fraud Google. As long as you keep that in mind, you're doing good.
Love it. Anything else, Danielle? Is that our list of questions?
No, we hit them all. Yeah, we got them all.
Perfect. I also noticed, looking into this a little before the call, Nick, there is an app for Google My Business, and Google also does have some other resources that comes from them, a help community and other things if people want to know more about Google My Business.
Absolutely. As a matter of fact, Danielle, we can send that link out now. There is an actual class from Google. It's entirely free. You have to sign up for it, but it is a class for Google My Business. And there's also tons of the other Google platforms on the free class kind of certification program. So if you want to know more about AdWords, if you want to know more about how to optimize the Google My Business page, or if you're a broker in charge and you want to do this in bulk and have all of your agents have separate Google My Business listings and stuff like that, all of those methods and all of those like even more sophisticated ways of creating and optimizing the page is available for free. And there you go. The link is in the chat. So, obviously take Google, anything that Google offers for free, you should be in love with. And of course, if you have any questions outside of Google My Business, if it's digital marketing or, how to optimize for SEO, of course, we're here to help you on that as well.
Perfect. Love it. Thanks for helping us understand the intricate and fascinating world of Google, Nick. There's some really, really good stuff. Speaking of the Facebook group, we will pop a poll on there to ask for your feedback or your vote on topics for the June webinar. And if you need to get a hold of us, email agents@rate.com. We love feedback. We love questions. We're here to help you, as Nick said. And anything else in closing, Nick? Our suggestion that it's free. We give you the instructions. It'll be on our site. And get out there and set your own Google My Business page up. Great. Again, thanks everyone for joining us. On behalf of Danielle, Agent Advantage team, again, thank you so much, Nick, and be well, everyone, and have a great day.